Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. And gee whiz, what a, what a game! What a result! How do you describe that? Really, um, one of the worst performances I think we've seen all season, which probably says something because we've had some pretty shit ones across the journey. But that there was like we all thought last week was bad to lose to that caliber of team. Um, Granted, it was a better caliber team with Port Adelaide, but the effort was probably worse than what we saw against North Melbourne, and it it virtually to me seemed as though we the players were taking a stand. They were what do you want to call it? Protesting almost in a sense through their lack of intent, and it just seems to me from the outset that they just did not come. You hate to borrow that phrase because it does annoy me a bit because it's an overused phrase, but they didn't come to play, and they went in almost with the mindset that they were going to fudge the match virtually. It's almost akin to match fixing in a sense, that they didn't. They wanted to send a message, I think, to not just Michael Voss and the wider coaching team, but also the board, the head of football, Brad Lloyd, everyone else. And it seemed as though it was well received. I think from what we saw tonight, it was just an insipid performance. There's no other way to describe it. And if they weren't going out there and making a statement to get Michael Voss ousted, that makes things even worse because it just shows that they don't have what it takes to play senior footy, really. And I don't believe that's the case. I don't think that is something that is possible, considering, I mean, I'll go through a couple of things which I was tweeting about tonight on both my Bluebaggers Edge account and also on my personal account. But, one thing that we have to keep in mind is that this core playing group, I went through, posted it. There were 7 players missing tonight from that which played against Brisbane in the preliminary final in 2023. So by that respect, I mean, there was Walshy out through injury, Harry out through injury, and obviously Newman as well. Those are kind of the 3 key pillars, if you want to call them that we're missing. Outside of that, obviously Marchbank moves on. Cottrell, thinking of Cotters. Cotters wasn't playing. And I also forgot Matt Kennedy, who was the who ended up being the sub that game as well. In both finals, he didn't get a good run in it, including the elimination final, of course, referencing there. But yeah, it was just an insipid performance, and I think enough talk has occurred. Enough of this, like getting Cripper to front the media, enough of Weeders and other, senior players to come out and speak, because it's almost at the point now where it's doing damage. That's probably the word for it. I was going to say, it's detrimental to continue on with the way things that are in its current form, but it's damaging to the supporters, the club, everyone that pours their heart and soul into turning up every single week, us supporters, paying members, everyone else. It's just not on. And I'm sure the players themselves, if they were going out there making a statement, they don't want to play like that every single week. They don't want to have to make another statement. Like, the season's gone. Let's face it. Like, there's no two ways about it. It was already gone, probably about a month ago, if we were to be honest with ourselves. But something needs to be done, and I've been a big advocate of that. Even late last year, I was, there's a lot of people calling it premature. I was saying that I don't think Voss is up to it. I don't think the wider coaching group is up to it. And, when I talk about coaching or coach or coaches, it's the collective, because the back end of last year, I've said it time and again, the injuries that we had, especially that game against Hawthorn, I remember it well, that there was kind of the circuit breaker in a sense for the coaches, I think, for them to hide behind, use it as shielding, and I kind of papered over the cracks in a sense and allowed them to keep their jobs, because at the back end of 2024, I'll say this: if I was within the club and I was within, a position of pulling levers and manufacturing change, I think there should have been change off the back of what we'd seen. And yes, I know we had injuries and key injuries and whatnot, but a lot of the issues that we see now were occurring well before those injuries against Hawthorn in 2024. And the way that there was disconnect between the midfield and the forward line, defense by and large, not too bad. That's probably the one strength of our side, and that's kind of developed over 2024 to now. But I mean, if you're not kicking a winning score, what's the use of going out on the field? So, there should have been movement. Jordan Russell, forwards coach, Ash Hansen, so supposedly a senior assistant coach, came to the club via the Bulldogs under high wraps and everything else. And, is he the one in the back end, pulling the leaves in terms of tactics, structure, set up, everything else? Is Michael Voss just there as the face to be almost a Jesus-like, entity where players look up to him and get him to, I guess, the club was using him, presumably maybe to motivate the players. Who knows? There's Aaron Hamill, who's randomly the defensive coach, even though he's kind of played the majority of his career up forward, so on and so forth. And, I think there should have been change, at least one or two positional changes at the back end of 2024 in the coaching ranks, and refresh things, because what we see now is no different, again, to what we saw in 2024. And it just annoys me because the club is so, from what's happened historically in terms of the way we've treated coaches, the way we've appointed coaches, it's virtually kind of laid the bed almost for where we are, like set the bed, made the bed, whatever you want to call it, to where we are now. Like, we've painted ourselves into a corner. We didn't provide adequate support in terms of an senior assistant coach to assist Brendan Bolton, coming in super green, presumably under high wraps, assistant coaching alongside Al Clarkson. But we provided no real support to him outside of Neil Craig, who was there when he left his post. We didn't replace him. Of course, David Teague took over from Brendan Bolton, and we didn't, again, bring in another senior assistant coach with experience. And now I'm not talking about Ash Hansen coming in as assistant coach, because he's had no senior assistant coaching experience as the senior assistant. And, we need someone like we saw that, like, historically look across the AFL, and with Melbourne, they did it really well in terms of Paul Roos. They had Simon Goodwin underneath him, the senior coach who's done it all before, years in the game at the helm at the Sydney Swans. You've got Choco Williams, who was at Richmond for a fair period, allowing a bit of, I guess, nous and experience, someone for Damien Hardwick to lean upon. We had none of that for David Teague or for Brendan Bolton. And it's just those sort of years that we had where we didn't provide the support to those inexperienced coaches, and then, I guess, laid the foundations for this thinking that we needed an experienced coach. And off the back of that, we, again, painted ourselves into a corner. And at that point in time, the only experienced coaches that we had at our availability were either Michael Voss or Ross Lyon. Of course, Ross Lyon, we know what happened there. He didn't want to interview for the senior coaching role. And it was virtually, a Stephen Bradbury type situation where Voss, everyone else fell over. There wasn't really any other competitors. So Michael Voss was the one, like, in the background, hey, can you give me the job? And of course, the board and everyone else, Brad Lloyd, yep, no worries, endorsed it and handed the reins to Michael Voss. And that's kind of where we find ourselves now. And I don't know about you, but I've brought it up in the past in terms of one of my previous live streams that I made a tweet, I think it was the day after Michael Voss was appointed, and you could read between the line. I spoke about what I just spoke about then, in terms of there not being any adequate, coaches out there in the realm that had adequate experience as, someone that had a bit of success, like a Paul Roos or anyone else. There was Michael Voss. And I had my serious doubts about that. And I said within 1 to 2 seasons, granted, he survived, 4 seasons now. So helped off the back of, the turnaround in form with 2023. Otherwise, he probably would have been given the arse off the back of that and lasted, 3 seasons. So he's probably lasted a couple of seasons more, or at least one more than what I thought. But you look at the the team on paper, you look at the wider list, and it's like if you're not extracting the best out of a team that consists of 2 Coleman medalists, a Brownlow medalist, a number 1 draft pick, and Jacob Wiedering, an All-Australian defender, arguably one of the best fullbacks in the game at the moment. Like, I'm sorry, but you are not a coach. You don't have the chops to coach at senior level. And we've seen snippets of this across the journey under Michael Voss. The early part of 2023, we virtually have the same game plan now as what we did back then. And it was only until Michael Voss's coaching tenure was under pressure that he actually flipped things up and changed things, and changed from the slow, methodical, possession footy, kicking down the line, to, fast ball movement, quick hands, run and carry, using the corridor as well. And then we had success off the back of that in 2023. It led us to a prelim. And then in 2024, it's almost as if Michael Voss, in his stubborn sense, is like, you know what? No. Let's go back to what I was trying to implement by, trying to squeeze, a square peg in a round hole with that game plan that wasn't working, because I think it'll work. And virtually that's what he's done from here on out up until now, is just maintain this slow, methodical, defensive mindset. And even when we're up by 30 points, we saw it against Essendon in the first quarter. We saw it against West Coast in the first quarter. We're up by 5-6 goals. And his mindset was, okay, let's just change things. Possession footy, kick backwards, kick sideways, and virtually defend a lead of 30 points over 3 quarters. Like, that's just ridiculous under nines type stuff, really. It's just inexcusable. But we'll go through the stats in a moment, but there are comments that are filtering through. So thanks for joining us. And I will pop up the link on screen, because happy to have those of you out there jump on, and anything that's cathartic that will help you. Happy to have you jump on and have a little bit of a yarn as well. We won't make this a massively long stream, but if you are keen to jump on, I will do it in a moment. And Josh, thanks for joining us, mates. How about those Doherty? Like, he wasn't the only one. It really is a contagion almost. It really is. Jay, you've said it best there. How fucked was that? Just beyond fucked. Razio Fantasia on ThreadUp just said, stick with us. Like, there's only so much that can be said by players. I think it's all PR. It's all, spin doctor type stuff that they regurgitate, that they're given by the media department and everything else. I know full well I used to work in the media department at the Carlton Football Club back in 2018, but it happens at every single club. Like, the players can only do so much in terms of, the words and motivation and everything else. Their role is to literally just play good footy, and that they did not do tonight. Next week is Collingwood. Like, that just makes things even worse. Just to know that we're facing them, and they're going to lap it up. And so they should. That they're a really good team. And the last live stream I did, I really heaped praise on the Pies, and they deserve it, because they are coached by someone in Craig McRae, who is the ultimate motivator, who is a really, really smart coach, the ultimate tactician, I think. The way that he has the players moving, even training, like, not that you would, but I really do encourage people, if you're in the area of Olympic Boulevard, go and check out their training. The way that they train for scenarios. They move the ball so well. There's a chemistry between, each third of the ground, the defense, the midfield, and of course the forward line. And you compare it to us, and there's such a disconnect across the board, for each of those 3 tiers. It's just so frustrating. But Collingwood, they do it so well. They do it so well, and kudos to them. Albert, how are you, mates? Our talk is indeed cheap. This core of players is something to answer for too. Yep, exactly right. And, I'm all for, like, I think of myself, like, if I was in their shoes, and I know, like, if you want your coach ousted, fair enough. But there's a time and place, and I think that it doesn't excuse not having effort and heart and everything else. And yes, I know, like, if they want to make a statement, whatever, but, like, come on. Like, there's going to be change into the season anyway. So why not put in 100%? And, otherwise, why play? We might as well just play the kids, really. Indeed, mistake, 100%. He was indeed a mistake. I'll bring it up in a moment in terms of my tweets. I don't want to be Nostradamus, but I could just see it happening. Because you know what? It's a classic Carlton Football Club to do. It's such a classic thing for the Carlton Football Club to do. It really is. It's just ingrained within our culture, our nature. And if you follow the club long enough, you just know it. You just know it's going to happen. So let me find it. It was on my personal account. I'll actually drop this down, stop the screen sharing, and I'll get to it in a moment. But just wanted to bring it up in the back end. Jeff, not defending anyone, but there was a lot of players there tonight that are not fit or match fit. Now, I hate picking on players and I hate like finger pointing, but when a player persists, and you probably know who I'm referring to before I even speak this person's name, but if you are being gifted games, and no, it's not Fantasia, because he was that player last season, and to his credit, he's actually playing okay footy because he's being played in a position that he should be, as more so, as a small forward. Whereas last year he was playing as the high half forward who couldn't run out games. But anyway, this player is someone that should have been dropped, I think, back in round 2. There was a bit of play that just epitomized him as a footballer. And, he's been in the system now for 3 to 4 seasons, and it's absolutely inexcusable. It was when the ball was being transitioned out of Port's defense. And the player was, of course, surprise, surprise, Jesse Motlop. Now, his opponent absolutely burnt him. Now, he was sprinting this Port player. I can't recall who it was. Motlop, meanwhile, was just, meandering, just, almost dragging his feet. His opponent ran into space, got the ball. Meanwhile, Motlop, who was just jogging, not even jogging, pointing to, I can't recall who the Carlton player was, but his teammate, pointing to his teammate for him to run off his direct opponent to then cover Motlop's player who had the ball. Like that there, I'm sorry, but you have to be dropped off the back of that. He needs to be out of the team. I don't care if you provide really good tackling pressure. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. He is not the player that I think the coaches think he will be. And if you're not putting in that sort of, you're not putting in adequate effort, I'm sorry, but you aren't a footballer. I'm sorry. You are not a footballer. And I'm sick of bringing this bloke's name up because he is someone that really annoys the shit out of me. And it's, again, off the back of, this is part of the issue with Voss and the coaching staff. They reward games to players that don't deserve it. And by giving these guys players, it sets a really ordinary standard. Because if players are given games off the back of a lack of effort like that, just you're kidding yourself. Absolutely kidding yourself. And when we talk about chemistry, we talk about culture that, again, talking about Craig McRae does it so well. Voss is just absolutely just behind the times. Absolutely behind the times. That's not how you do it. But Jeff, 100%. And that was just, I don't know if it's lack of fitness, but I do think it's a lack of motivation and intent, everything else with Motlop. I think it's more than fitness with him. He's played enough games in 2025, more than what he should have, to have the fitness to run with his player. Just shit house. Quinton, I'm done. I ain't watching them till Voss gets sacked. Plus the board and the football manager. Yep, 100%. And the captain and vices are stripped of their rank. I'll pay a full captain's club membership every single year. Mate, myself, my wife, father-in-law, we all have reserve seats that we pay good money for every single year. And we actually have a membership through the AFL as well to go and watch the away games in Melbourne. So we pour some pretty hard-earned into the club. And, it really... It sours things even more because, we're not just invested with the passion, the love for the club, it's financially as well. And, you'd hope that it's not lost on the players, the board especially, because I was reading some things today about the board. There was the AGM and there was an accusation with a couple of paid up members who attended the AGM that were delivered a stern warning from the club because, again, I wasn't there, so I can't speak to it in terms of the truth, but there probably was some degree of these members causing a little bit of a ruckus, but, that's through passion, through everything else, and it was virtually them being snuffed out for critiquing the board. And, it's not a dictatorship, all that sort of stuff, but it virtually seems like it is because the board, they need to be dissolved. They need to be elected by the members, and they need to be people that I think have an investment in the football club from not just a business perspective, because as we know, the business side of the club is flourishing, and that's totally fine. But when we talk about the football side of things, I think we've definitely lost grasp of the sole purpose of the football club, which is to win flags. Without the football team. We're not here, putting on business events. We're not here making money through coterie groups, all that sort of stuff. We're here to win flags, and the club has lost sight of that, and it needs to be reset. And I'm sure at board level, they just see the finances, they see the numbers, and they're like, oh, that's fantastic. We're one of the more profitable clubs in the AFL. But where does that get you? At the end of the day, what does that get you? That money doesn't go into the salary cap. We're not a privately owned club. It's just we don't operate like the NFL. So end of the day, who gives a shit if you're making money? Sure, it's great. It helps prop up the club. It helps, redevelop the Princess Park, everything else. But what are we doing if we're not out there to try and win flags? It's just really piss poor. But I hear you there, Quinton, 100%. I pay a full captain club membership every year and have done for years, not going to games due to being in WA. That's even another level of investment from yourself. I will reconsider that for this coming year. And the fact that you're not being able to come to games regularly, just again speaks to the level of passion and love you have for the club to dip into your own pockets and fork out good money for that to support the team. Game plan is terrible, mate. Set it back in 2024. Early part of 2023, I'll dredge up some tweets in a moment. Will there be fan cams? I'll pop the no, I don't call them fan cams. If you want a fan cam, check out Terry. I think Terry might be doing fan cams at the moment. So if you want to do that, but I just thought I'd open it up in terms of I'll do a review, and then if anyone wants to jump on, you're more than welcome. So let me just grab that. I'll grab the invite link, and if anyone wants to jump on, feel free. But I don't want to step on anyone's toes in terms of Terry and stuff, because he just does some incredible stuff. So if anyone is keen to come on, have a little bit of a yarn, feel free. That is if Terry's fan cams is full, because I imagine it'll be chock full to the brim of members and supporters that want to jump on and vent their spleen, and rightfully so. There will be indeed, mate. So I'll pop the link down below. So feel free to jump on in a moment. But we will get through some comments and questions before we jump on. And yep, Aiden is keen by the looks of it. Quinton, mine's Doherty. He's past it, and he's now taking a kid spot. Yeah, I mean, Doherty, to his credit, went back to the VFL, regained a bit of form, came back and looked pretty good, but he's kind of tapering again, as we know. And I think he's probably well aware himself that he's kind of past it. He doesn't have the leg speed anymore. He's had, 3 knee recos. He's had his own health issues as well, which to his credit he's come back from. But yeah, he probably knows that the time is nigh for him to hang on boots. He's been an incredible leader, everything else. But yeah, we'll no doubt see him as one of the changes come the end of the season. G'day, Logan. Look, we can analyze his performance in isolation as much as we want, but it just goes so much further. Hey, 4 years, no consistency, no accountability, 4 slumps. Fuck this club, man. It's cancerous. I wouldn't go as far as to say that. That's probably not a good word to use, but yeah, it's ingrained within the club. I think it's definitely an issue, but it is salvageable. That's the thing. I think that is first and foremost in the form of Graham Wright coming in. We all know the changes that he made at Collingwood. He was, virtually the catalyst to bring in Craig McRae, and off the back of that, reset the culture that was dwindling at the Pies, and got rid of a couple of players that they needed to in order to free up money with their salary cap. But he's definitely one that can help. But yeah, like we've spoken about, if the board, don't put their positions up for re-election themselves, I think that's part of the issue as well. And it seems as though there's kind of a bit of a protective sort of mindset there from the top down. And they're just going to deflect to the senior coaches they always have and always have done. Josh, Willow ratings. Yep, indeed, mates. I don't think they've updated their stats for tonight's game, which I usually go through, but we'll just have a quick look in the back end. Match stats. No, they haven't. It'll be interesting to see what the breakdown is there in terms of stats beneath the surface there, but we will go through the AFL team stats and everything else. No, I don't think I want to, mate. I don't think I want to. And he's probably just, at the moment, just doing a bit of politician PR speak, all that sort of stuff, all the spin, just to deflect. And, that's kind of expected. It was his first game, though, Billy Wilson. You can't expect too much from him. So he probably gets a stay of execution, I think. You can't really throw the youngsters under the bus. Disposal skills and ball handling skills, our ball movement so often, yep, it's shit house, kicking backwards, sideways. And I think it's just a lack of confidence as well. naturally, human beings, when you're told to play, attacking, all out attacking against Essendon, against West Coast, and then in the second quarter, your coach is like, no, we have to go defensive. And they know off the back of that possession footy, where I think ranked 17th in terms of the least efficient team in the competition, probably now the 18th, but no doubt that there just erodes confidence and everything else that goes with it. And that's probably what we've seen now, is just the build-up of all of that and their frustration with the way that they're being played. Thank you, Quentin, for joining in, mate. All the best with your early start to the morning, and we'll catch you next time, no doubt. Logan, before we jump on to the chats, Graham Wright coming in, yes, great, but his decisions are ticked off by the board, the same board that has fucked us up. Yeah, it's almost like a bit of a political setup where it's like, the House of Representatives and the Senate and the House of Reps, they come together, put together all the bills and stuff, and then, it needs to be ticked off in the Senate before it's made official. And, the board is virtually the Senate. And I think Graham Wright, at least he's a personality where he comes in, he's quite stern. He's not like, the way that we've seen things previously. And I think he'll be able to, he comes with a little bit of pedigree in terms of a football sense as well. He's head of footy at Collingwood, and, he's taken over the CEO role with that in mind. And I think they'll probably be leaning upon him, and they have to, because if they want to try and protect their own roles as well, and the supporters are asking for change and we don't see much change, I think everyone's going to be pointing their fingers even more so at the board if change doesn't come. So hopefully he can make some changes and whatnot, but we'll see what happens. Now we will start with someone here who happens to be my wife.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh,
What are your thoughts on the game?
my
And
thoughts.
the state of the team?
I'm just gonna air it all out real quick and let you get back to it. As you can see, I'm ready for bed after that insipid performance. Incredibly sleep deprived at the moment as well, which I'll touch on in a moment. But I can't believe we're back in this position. And I think I've always been sort of one to defend Voss when you've been probably more negative about it, and to defend the team and sort of take a positive spin on it. But I think after last week, I was like, okay, maybe it's just a blip in the radar. I know like this season obviously hasn't been great. And maybe I have been pretty delusional, and you do say that I am delusional when it comes to this club sometimes. But I think I just can't believe we're back at this point, honestly. Like the fact that the commentators tonight were referencing things from 2018 of us not have, the last time we hadn't kicked a goal in a first half. Thank God we did kick one in the first half this time. But the fact that, that we're talking about 2018, comparing our current state to 2018 is genuinely terrifying. The fact that, like, where do we go from here? Like, what's going to fix it? The attitudes of the players tonight was just disgusting, honestly, and super disappointing. Like, if I have to watch it, you guys should turn up too. Like, if I have to turn up, you should turn up too. You mentioned that we're paying members. I haven't even been able to get to a game this year because I was pregnant, and had a high risk pregnancy, so I wasn't able to get to any games. And I don't think I have any desire to go to any more, to really push myself, considering, it would be an effort to go, one, to just watch what's happening, but also just in the current state that we're at. And I'm also disappointed because we have a 3.5-week-old baby that we've signed up as a member, and I don't want to have to explain to him in 30 years' time why we are still in the same situation. I just had a look before, like, my dad signed me up as a member when I was 4 years old, and he's seen 8 premierships, 8.
Yeah.
So he had, I can't blame him for signing me up and taking me on this journey where, 95, I was way too young to remember. 95, you were too young to remember too. I was younger. But, the fact that we've signed him up, and if we haven't turned a corner and he, we take him every week, and in 30 years time he turns to us and say, why the hell, I don't know what I can say, because there's literally no excuse. My dad has the
Yeah.
excuse of that we used to be good. So yeah, shocking. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's terrible. I honestly just cannot believe we are back in this position, and that a prelim is potentially the best that we're going to get to for a very, very long time. And you know what? It's the hope that kills you. It's the hope that gets you every time, and the hope that kills you. And on that note,
Exactly.
I need to go to bed because I'm exhausted because of said child. So yeah, terrible.
Yep. Well, thank you for jumping on, and hopefully you feel better after venting your spleen. I'll just put the
Oh,
link out on Twitter for anyone else that wants to jump on. But yeah, I can't even compare us to St Kilda. Like St Kilda have won one flag in '66. At least they have made two grand final, all three if you can include their draw in 2010. They were stocked full of talent and stuff, and we probably are as well. But it was closest we came as a prelim. Disappointing. But oh well. Well, I'll let you get to sleep, and we will jump through to the next person. We've got Aiden waiting in the back end there. All right, we'll see. I'll see you. Oh, are you going? Wait,
don't you hang
you
up?
frozen.
I don't know. How does this work?
Oh,
Bye.
all right. I'll kick you.
See ya.
No, she's gone. Next up, we have Aiden. How are you, mate? How's it going? Apart from obviously seeing that shit show.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. A bit tired, but after witnessing that, I think they got me a lot more tired after that. So, yeah, I said on Terry's fan cams before that it was the same senior players that stuffed us up last week, like Doherty, Sard, and who else? Yeah, Doherty, Sard, and can't really remember a few others. They were kind of at fault for not why we lost, but for how we conceded a few goals tonight. And I thought that the attitude from the players tonight was you can just tell that they played like they gave up on him, that they just don't want to play for him anymore, that it looks like that they've checked out. And it really surprised me that they kept him on after last week. They always were, and I really want them to let him go, just out of his own dignity. Because if this continues on, then it's just going to get worse. And I'm afraid that the next 2 weeks are going to be really, really bad, performance wise and scoreboard wise. Like, I don't even want to think about it. Like, it could probably be 100 or 100 or 20 plus point beltings. So
it was, it definitely was, I reckon, just the players. And it seems to happen, like, if you think back to previous coaches that, have been given the arse, like Brendan Bolton, David Teague, there's always a game where it's obvious the players have just had enough. And they're like, no, we're just not going to put in 100%. And it's annoying as supporters, paying members, all that sort of stuff. But if that's the case, like if that's what it takes for a coach to be given the arse, I think there's a bit of an issue there, I think, where I think it probably indicates that the board, that, Brad Lloyd, CEOs, everything else, that there's a disconnect there. And they should be, before it gets to this point, they should have the awareness to be like, okay, well, do we come out publicly and say, okay, we've agreed with Michael Voss that this will be his, whether it's he coaches out the rest of the season or it's an immediate handover, shake hands, part ways. I think it's just frustrating that it gets to a point where the players don't want to play with any heart, any intent, and they just do it to make a statement and protest. Because it's just all of our support, like all of our supporters, are just suffering watching that shit, and it's just terrible. But surely, as you mentioned there, it can't go on after this. Like, we face Collingwood of all teams next week. Like, we're not going to beat them. We never probably were going to, but they're going to be lapping this up, and it's just going to be a shit show if he is still at the helm. Like, no one's going to turn up to the game. There's going to be even more criticism. He's going to get more pressure. Like, how is he going to front the media from here on out, press conferences? It's just, I think it becomes almost like a pressure gauge, and the pressure is built up so much that it needs to be released. And the only way it can be released is by parting ways with the senior coach. It's the nature of footy, unfortunately.
Yeah, like you mentioned it there, like about like the last coaches that we had. Like, yes, we've gotten coaches wrong. Like Teague, I thought Teague was a mistake. Bolton, we probably should have given him a bit more time. Like, it's okay to get coaches wrong. Like, it happens. Like, in sport, like, you're
Yeah.
going to get coaches wrong. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't get the right one. Like, people keep saying, oh, we've sacked these amount of coaches over the last 20 years. It doesn't matter. Like,
No.
at the end of the day, that clearly shows that it's not just the coaches like Voss. Like, it's a mix of the playing group, the board, and all that. And I do think that when they get rid of Voss, because it's going to happen at some point, then
Yeah.
the board who tick that off have to go, and
Yep.
some of the players need to go as well, because these players have gone through 3-4 coaches now, and you can tell after tonight that their attitude stinks, and it's a sense of entitlement as well with them. Like, you can't tell me like Charlie missing from there at the fourth quarter, and McGovern as well. Like, and the fact that you got Doherty smiling, Charlie smiling, like, you can't have that going on. Like, you need to get rid of those players. And I'm not calling for like a full blown rebuild, but find some draft capital and use them on players that we need. And yeah, I'm not a bit concerned for Wright, but I do think that he will change stuff. But it depends if we will give him the
Yeah.
keys
Keys to the city. Yeah.
the keys to do
Mm.
whatever he wants, because I'm afraid that with the board that we have, it probably won't look like it. But again, like, I don't think he's the type to come here if he wasn't allowed to do whatever he wants, if that makes sense. So clearly,
Mm.
they'd probably said to him, "You can do whatever with the football department and go from there." But then again, like, everything gets ticked off with the board. So yeah, I just don't know how Voss survives next week. I feel like he will coach next week. I feel like they'll probably give him another crack, and if it gets bad, then they probably have to part ways with him.
Mm.
But
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I've just got it on screen there. This is a tweet I made back in 2023. It was right before, obviously we turned things around and, went through and made a prelim. But it was at that stage where Voss was implementing a game plan that was virtually identical to what we see at the moment. And I said that the heads must roll, and not just what we're just chatting about there, not just Voss, but also the board who endorsed his appointment without the due diligence. And after being knocked back after, interviewing at multiple clubs, full sweep, Essendon 2022 style, get it done. And it was a low watermark of 2023. As it turned out, and quite, comically off the back of that, I remember some of my friends were like, oh, you're kind of referencing your tweet that you made there back in 2021, where I was very critical of the appointment of Michael Voss. And they're like, oh, well, we made a prelim. And I'm like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe, he needed more time to switch things up and change things around. But if you remember back in 2023, the only time when he actually changed things up in terms of his game plan, team structure and stuff was when the media and supporters were calling for his head. And we changed the style of the gameplay, which, it was like kick down the line. It was possession footy. It was slow, methodical, what we see now. And it was like quick ball movement. It was, using the corridor, zigzagging play, switching the play, but also moving quickly to position, supporting your teammates, all that sort of stuff, which got us through to the finals and ultimately the prelim. But yeah, as I said earlier, it's almost as if like Michael Voss is a very stubborn player. He's a very stubborn coach. And it looks as though he's just been like, well, what I was trying to implement, that's my only go-to. Like, once it was found out the way that we're playing previously, let me go back to the well there and see if I can get the players to finally latch on to what I was trying to implement. And it just does not work. And he's just a very one-dimensional coach, I think. And as you said there, as I've alluded to there, the board that, allowed that appointment to happen, it was so short-sighted. He was the only coach with previous experience. Was he the type of coach with previous experience that was worthy of an appointment? No. I just think like it's such a short-sighted thing for the club to do, for the board to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that by and large, they've kept their spots. Brad Lloyd has also been head of footy, not keeping accountable Michael Voss and the coaches as well. They've got KPIs they have to set just across the board. When you go all the way down from the board, Brad Lloyd, even Brian Cook as well, the CEO, we all know the plaudits that he comes with being at West Coast, Geelong. But he said himself that he is not someone who likes to, rock the boat. And he said that he was actually the type of CEO that just allows people that are appointed in positions to do their job, and that's it. Which says to me, like, you're kind of not a really good CEO if you're not holding people to account and KPIs and stuff. Like Brian Cook is very good in terms of the financial side of things. That's his bread and butter. And I know West Coast had success when he was there. Geelong had success when he was there. Would they have had success if he wasn't there? Maybe. Maybe they wouldn't have been as financially, stable as what they were without him there. But I think that's just, again, appointments that have come in and people not quite doing the right thing and keeping people to account. So it's just a flow-on effect, and it's just found us to where we are now. It's frustrating.
I feel like when we appointed Voss, I remember thinking back to his Brisbane sacking, and when I think I heard later on that Brian Cook or someone said that he's not really good tactically, and then when I heard that, I'm like, that's a red flag. That was a huge red flag, and now it's come back to bite him. And that whole coaching process of finding the coach, that was a complete and utter disaster as well, because look who we had there. We had Kingsley there who wanted the job, and we just said no. We're going to pay Kingsley $1 million a year as an assistant coach. He didn't want that. He wanted the coach.
No way.
And I feel like if we got Kingsley in, or even let's say Clarkson, we'd probably we'd be way better than how we are at the moment. And Voss, I think, as you mentioned about 2023, I think that game plan stacked up back then. And I'm pretty sure because how other coaches and teams have adapted since then, he got found out. And I think because after Richmond and when we went 0-4, he did change stuff up and it worked for a little bit. But then as we faced good sides and as time has gone on, you can tell that he's lost out of ideas, and he's out of his depth, but the whole coaching panel as well is out of their depth as well.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the rare, I can't recall, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to share this tab here. This is the coaching staff we've got here at the club. Now, Ash Hansen was brought in as a senior assistant coach, and you mentioned it there in terms of the tactical side of Michael Voss probably being inadequate is probably a word for it. And I can't recall, in terms of a senior assistant coach being at the club, apart from, where Neil Craig was there, outside of that, I can't think of anyone else that was brought in to be that senior assistant or that senior head that the senior coach can fall back on. And again, like Ash Hansen, does he have the chops of providing ample support as a senior assistant coach? Like had some good raps when he was at the Bulldogs, but in my eyes, if you're a senior assistant coach, you come with that experience of having coached at senior level. Like, as I mentioned earlier, Choco Williams was at Richmond, helped Damien Hardwick, Paul Roos at Melbourne, where Simon Goodwin was assistant coach virtually at the time. Like, you need someone, I think, with that experience, that experience in a sense that, tactically, what's required on match day. Ash Hansen, he hasn't coached the senior side, so how's he going to know tactically, what the best way is? You've always got to, and you spoke about it, you've always got to adapt. You've got to, come up with new ways of thinking as a senior coach. And it seems as though we've just got the one style of play and there's no plan B. And it's just awfully frustrating because we've been found out long ago, and the same issues happen, and it just comes down to the quality of the opposition as to whether or not we can, win the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think when Ash Hansen didn't get the West Coast job, or pretty sure another job as well, I think that was kind of a red flag as well, that clubs didn't even really rate him as well. And the big mistake that we didn't make is, I'm pretty sure over 4 years, you've seen, I think Collingwood have changed their assistants a couple of times.
Yep. Brendan Bolton was there as well. He's since gone.
If you have a look at our coaches, they're all they're the same, except for Jordan Russell, who rocked up last year. But I think we're at fault. If you look at the names there, if you genuinely consider it, what coaches there would be at a top 4 club, what top 4 club would want those coaches? Because I think they will all go personally.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what annoys me as well, because we should have had changes made at the back end of last season, but because there wasn't, now it compromises everyone's position. Who, there might have been a couple of coaches there at the moment that are actually okay assistant coaches and they're doing their job, but we wouldn't know because it's come to that point where it's so bad that we don't know where the issues are. And Graham Wright probably coming with a fresh mind and everything else is like, okay, well, it seems as though there's an issue with defense is actually not too bad, I must admit, but midfield, there's a disconnect there between the midfield and the forward line, which is Jordan Russell. Luke Power, I think he's been there for a little while in terms of the development. I think he was the development coach at one stage. Now he's the VFL senior coach. But like head of development, Brad Ebert, is he doing his role? So there's a fair bit of work for Graham Wright to come in and work out who the good eggs are and who the bad eggs are as well, to try and weed out who they are. And is it just easier just to wipe the slate clean?
Yeah, I think our backline looks okay. I think they'd keep Hamill because the backline's not really our fault. It's more so, as you said, the midfield, the forward, the coach, the development, everything's like our fault. Like everything's bad. And I think like by Graham Wright going into the coach's box, I think every week, he probably has a great idea of like where the issues are and what to fix up. So yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Ash Hansen the forwards coach at one point, 2023?
I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he was. I think at the moment he's still. There's a little bit of crossover, I think, with him and Jordan Russell, potentially still. But I don't know if he's just all out the senior assistant coach, but he was. You are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because our forward line and our midfield in 2023, like they functioned perfectly well. I don't know why they changed that. And apparently Jordan Russell was a highly regarded coach from, I don't know if he worked at an AFL club or not, but apparently like he's seems to be a really good coach. Well, ever since he's been here, like our forward line has just capitulated with the midfield. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of changes to come. It's been reported that change will come. So yeah, the big one that has to happen first is the head of football. That he has to go. And I personally bring in Jimmy Bartel because when I hear him speak about how we play and all that, like he has a great idea. So if he comes in with fresh mind and already knowing like how we play, sort of based off the footy chats that they have on every Tuesday, that would be a pretty good start. So yeah, well, I just can't wait for October to see what we do, what players get traded out, because I do think that the Coning will go, and I think Harry Mackay will go as well. So, yeah, it should be a pretty ruthless end of the year, to be honest with you. And I think that next year, if we get the changes right and if the board let Graham Wright do what he does, and if we get the correct coaching, then I feel like we won't drop off next year. So
yeah, there's enough there. There's enough meat in the bone, I think, in terms of like we've got Wiedering at fullback. You think of the spine, it's like Wiedering. Sauce has actually been a really good contributor, as we know, this season, and hopefully he's given the 4-year deal that is being reported. Then we have through the middle as well, like Cripps. I know he's another year older, but hopefully, I mean, he's just down on form, motivation, confidence, everything else, like the entire playing group. Walsh, hopefully he comes back fully fit. We saw what he can produce, like in 2023 in the final series. He was rated like the best final series player and played more outside. He's playing too much of an inside midfielder. He doesn't have the ability under pressure to use his skills. He turns the ball over a fair bit when he's under pressure. It's just one of the chinks in his armor. But when he's played as more of an outside player, almost as a wingman, when he's played wide, he is an incredible kick of the footy. Then we look forward as well. Charlie, there's Harry, if he stays on. TDK, I think he is manageable, as we saw tonight as well, in terms of the impact that he has in the ruck. Probably isn't up there in terms of the, like, on my alternate channel, Supercoach Edge, I go through a fair bit of stats in terms of the ability of ruckmen across the board in terms of their impact in the ruck. And he rates outside the top 10. This was at the start of the year, looking back at 2024. And he just does not have the impact hit outs to advantage wise compared to the likes of a Gawn, even a Marshall, Luke Jackson. He rates down the list, but where he does a bulk of his work, as we know, like he's almost an extra midfielder at the stoppage, which is really good at ground level and around the ground as well. But I mean, does he deserve the amount of money that we're offering? I don't think so. We're offering massive overs. Even St Kilda, if they want to pay him that money, good luck to him, and good luck to him to chase that money.
I mean, like to be fair, like what I've noticed about him is whenever we play against a big body ruck, he tends to get beaten pretty comfortably. And I've
Yep.
noticed that like I don't think he's purposely trying to tap into the opposition, but most of his taps they go uncoordinated and they go to opposition area, and that's what I've noticed when we've lost the clearances as well. And
Yeah.
with regarding um, who we might bring in as coach next year, who would you prefer? Would you prefer a long mine? Would you prefer an Adrian? What's his name, Hickmont, or someone from? Yeah, I think he's at Hawthorn, and there's someone else from Collingwood who's an assistant as well. Like, would you prefer that experience, or would you prefer someone uh, brand new who's been at a top four club, knows what it takes, knows the modern football? So, who would you like consider bringing in?
Yeah, I would, in terms of if we're talking experienced coaches that have been around the traps and had some relative success, I would say Horse Longmuir is definitely one that I would be happy to have at the club. In what capacity he would like to, be make himself available for is probably the next question. Like, he may have just been burnt out from Sydney, may not be keen to be a senior coach, but I would, even if he's not the senior coach, love to have him on as the senior assistant coach and really utilize his experience, and then bring on someone that is, quite new, like a Carousella, or there's John Syracusa as well, who they've been assistant coaches for a fair while. So I wouldn't mind either of those routes, but if we were to go for an experienced head, and I almost think that they, like Carlton being Carlton and knowing the state of the list at the moment, they probably don't have the time to bring on, a relative rookie coach unless they have someone of the seniority of a John Longmuir as that senior assistant pedigree. So I think they'll probably end up going for a horse.
Uh, I can't hear you. Are you? I'm pretty sure your mic stuffed out.
Apologies, anyway. Don't know what happened
No.
there. All good. Yeah, with Horse, yeah, I reckon they'll probably go with him just because, yeah, time's not really on our side. The list is getting older, and yeah, good old. I mean, Horsehead in the bed is not keen on Lamar at all. Which is
Yeah.
by the by. But
I mean,
taken Sydney to a few grand finals. Hasn't won the ultimate, but we see what Sydney's like at the moment. They've fallen away massively, and it's like, well, did Horse have a bigger impact than what we thought? I don't know. Did he do a better job than what he could have done with a better list? I don't know. Otherwise, there is Adam Simpson as well, who I rate
oh,
won a flag 2018, and
yeah.
probably I
I'm
reckon
kind
his
of
reputation's a little bit marred because of the fact that
yeah.
West
I'm
Coast went so shit. But
mm,
yeah,
I'm really questionable on him as well because if you think about it, like he stayed throughout those West Coast beltings and all that, and I feel like if we bring him, then it probably won't really. He would help, but would he really take us there? I'd probably go down with the like go with someone new. If I'm being honest with you, because I feel like with the modern day coaches now, especially with clubs, like they've gone with someone new. Like if you look at Adam McRae and Mitchell, like I'm pretty sure Collingwood, like when they got in McRae, I think they were still pretty old, and
yeah.
it took him what, not even 2 years to win them a flag, and in his first year they've gone into a prelim. So yeah, as I've said, like if you do everything correctly, right head of football, right football department, right everything, then I'm telling you now, like next year we will probably be pretty well. But again, like that's a year ahead. So
Mm.
um, yeah,
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But hopefully, there's changes across the board in terms of the playing side of things. So you mentioned like Harry potentially making way. What's your sort of thinking behind that? Like, is it in terms of just sort of getting some draft capital, moving him on because potentially we're not getting the best out of him? Like, is there a potential that we move him on and he recaptures his Coleman medal type form at a new team? And it's like, well, why do we get rid of him type thing? Like, do you think it's possible to have both of these players, both him and Charlie, at the peak of their powers? Is it just the way that they're being played and coached, or do you reckon, regardless of whoever comes in as the next coach, we're going to have a few issues?
I mean, I don't think like having two big forwards work at the moment. Like I always reference Collingwood because they've got a small forward in Jamie Elliott, who's third in the Coleman. And they don't even have a tall forward as well. Like I'm pretty sure McStay's rarely played and they've been doing really, really well. So I feel like the two big forwards don't work anymore. I don't hate Harry, I really like him, but I feel like it'd be better for him as well to get out of like Victoria and like Melbourne because let's be fair, like the media's killed him and our supporter base has killed him as well. So I'm pretty sure like a new start at a Brisbane or Sydney would help him out. And plus, I'm pretty sure we'd get like a first rounder for him, man. We can split that pick or we can get a player in return as well. Because there's word around about Ollie Florent. Some people would do that deal, but some are pretty skeptical. I wouldn't because I don't necessarily rate him. But yeah, we'll just have to hopefully wait and see. I'd get rid of him and I'd get rid of the Koning as well. Free up that cap space, get in a Darcy Cameron, hopefully, who's out of contract, potentially Miles Bergman as well, who played unbelievable today.
Yep.
But yeah, even if I'm probably going out of the box a little bit, but even if we can somehow get Butters as well, like 2 first-round picks, get him, because we like pace. And if you think about our midfield next year with Walsh, Jagger, that's quick. But then if you had Butters there, our midfield gets better automatically. But I don't think we will do that. But again, what do I know? It's just my opinion. So, yeah, but do I trust the people who are in charge to do the right thing? Probably not, because you can tell in the past that they haven't made the correct calls as well with coaching, list management decisions as well. So, yeah, we'll just have to hopefully wait and see. Would you change the list management as well, like Nick Austin? Would you let him go? Would you let all of them go?
I probably wouldn't let all of them go. I think there's been two sides of the argument when it comes to the moves that we made at our most recent draft, just to try and trade up to get Jagger in. I think we will look back and say that it was the right move. Some people are of the mindset that it was a waste to try and trade up to get in this unknown quantity. But for anyone that has followed the draft and followed him at junior level, he is an absolute superstar. And he has all the attributes of someone that we want, clean skills, really speedy, and position-wise plays his role. So I think it was a good move in the end. And I reckon the club in the back end were probably banking on the fact that TDK was more than likely going to leave potentially. I'm sure they would have heard whispers of the contract offer that he was receiving, the dollars that he was receiving. And if he goes, then we're going to get a first-round draft pick. And we would have been hopeful that we were in a better position at the moment. But, I mean, in the current context of the way things lie, we'll get a top 10 pick. And it's probably a good thing if he does move on. But, yeah, I mean, with a recruiting team, it dates back for seasons on end now, like how our fascination to target, all these halfbackers across the journey, like Sard, Williams, and paying them big money. And I'm like, I don't see why this is like a position where they have to throw money at said player because they think that it's going to magically unlock a premiership or something. And I don't know. It's just a misguided view on things from the recruiting team and list management team because, I mean, end of the day, we can all see that we need massive speed. And I know they got Jagger in to help that. It's unfortunate that he did his ACL and we missed out on that for 2025. But long term, I do like the fact that they're thinking longer term. But yeah, if we can get someone like a Miles Bergman in, I'd love to see us. If we get, if TDK leaves, we get a top 10 pick. I would be throwing a heap of money at Sam Flanders from Gold Coast, getting in his ear, getting his manager's ear. And I know Hardwick said that we want to keep him. They're not playing him to his full ability. We all know, like, when he's played in the midfield, he's an incredible player. Super speedy. In his draft combine, he was like top 3 in terms of the 20-minute sprint and in terms of the 2K time trial as well. Like, he has all the attributes that we need and want. So I'd love for us to go out and target, like, we think of it, teams across the journey, Richmond, Hawthorn, they go out and target players. They may not be superstars, but they're role players and they bring them in, and they have great success with them. And I think
Yeah,
we just need to be smarter with it. Like Lika Leah is another one.
exactly. Like even look at Collingwood as well. They got in Membry and what's his name,
Yep.
Perryman, and I'm pretty sure someone else. And people laughed at him. Oh, Perryman's getting 800K a year. Membry's finished. And well, look who's laughing now? So
Yeah.
yeah, with like trade targets for this year, what would your ideal trade window be? Like who would you get? Who would you get out?
Yeah, so Flanders would definitely be my number one. If I was in the list management team, I'd be targeting him massively, especially considering that he's not being played and he's I think his preferred position, but also his bread and butter where he's actually most effective in the midfield. Now's the time to get in his ear because he would be keen to be like, all right, more opportunity, and just say, look, you're going to be getting bulk CBAs if you come to Carlton. We're going to reward you financially quite well as well. Now that we've freed up some cap space from TDK leaving, he would be number one. I did say Lee Kalia last season, but I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy enough to go for him now, but I think St Kilda are after him. I don't know how far down the track they are with him, but he could be a really nice depth player as well. It's just we're lucky that Sauce has actually stepped up and filled that void a fair bit. When Kemp comes back, does he go back into defence potentially with Gov now playing forward and looking okay? Or does Gov go back into defence and Kemp goes forward? But yeah, speed is definitely one. And I think Bergman is right up there as well. So if Flanders is unavailable, I would be going super hard at Bergman. A very skillful player, super young as well, and speedy as well. And Port have done well to unlock that hidden gem because traditionally he's been more of a halfback. They throw him in the middle, and he looks like a superstar. So I'd love to really get him over. What about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably Bergman, and if TDK leaves, probably Cameron as well. Darcy
Mm.
Cameron, Bergman,
Yep.
Cameron, and I was even thinking, I think Liam Ryan as well for that small forward position because I'm pretty sure his reputation is not that good, but he's got a lot of experience, and I still rate him as a pretty decent player compared to the small forwards that we have. But even if it's not Liam Ryan, then probably Malcolm Roses as well. Um, so yeah, probably them three or four.
Yep.
So that's obviously if we can potentially get him in and if it's even realistic. But my dream one would be Butters because we lack
Oh
that
yeah,
speed.
incredible.
We massively lack that speed. So
Yeah, I'd love Butters as well. I didn't mention him because I don't think he'd be available. But if he is,
yeah,
yeah, he'd be on the phone, quick, smart. Horse Head in the Bed has said Dickhead Silvani tried to split the pick for Papley, and the Swans hung up the phone. Pick 9 straight up, and the deal would have been done. Silvani bid on Luke Henry at pick 9, and of course they were always going to match the bid there for Henry. So yeah, it was
you know
a bit of an annoyance one, but
what I've thought about Silvani is he didn't really do a great job at Carlton if you think
no, he
about
didn't.
it. Like he got like those draft picks that he got, Wiedering, Kerner, Mackay, they're three generational players, so they were always going to be good.
Yeah,
And after that, what else did he do? Because I'm pretty sure that 2017 draft, we missed out on a lot of guns like LDU, Richards,
yeah.
even Zach Bailey at one point. Like if you genuinely think about it, besides from Wiedering, Walsh, Kerno, Mackay, what else has he really done?
Yeah, he's been, I think, flattered by the picks of Charlie and Harry and everyone else. So yeah, outside of that, he's done pretty poorly. And Horse in the Head in the Bed has said there he didn't want Flanders, and I remember going into that draft. Flanders is one player I just wanted us to take. He really fit the bill of what we needed, and I said there in terms of his combine results, it was all there for everyone to see, like how speedy he was, his endurance. He's a real good endurance athlete, and overlooked him. And it was almost like a layup. It's like that's the sort of player we should have gone for. Didn't do it, and of course, yeah, went for Kemp. And as you mentioned there, um, Flip. So didn't go down well there. But yeah, it's just there's so many what ifs and whatnot across the journey where like every club has them, but it just we could have done so much better off the back of, you know, nailing those picks with Charlie, Harry, and everyone else. And Walsh is a gimme as well. But just
But
so
yeah,
frustrating.
even the rebuild as well, we stuffed up with our rebuild. Like we should have got it in. I'm pretty sure experienced premiership players, like how Brisbane did with Luke Hodge and how West Coast
Mm,
did with Mitchell. We got in experienced duds, to put that
yeah,
respectfully. And yeah, like we just did our rebuild wrong. And hopefully, yeah, we don't ever go into that position again and we never rebuild because I don't want to wait 5 years again or 10 years. But
yeah,
yeah, I think we do need a mini reset, not a rebuild, reset, and
exactly.
yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. So
Yeah, it's at least we can say that Peter Dean's son's coming through. We've got Cody Walker as well, so we're pretty
mm,
blessed in terms of that. Because otherwise, if we didn't, we'd be up Chip Creek without a paddle, I think, because we don't have, in terms of the development of youngsters, that's highly questionable as well. We have a few guys coming through, and I think that the guys that were picked up, like Cooper Lords, look pretty good, but again, I question his development as well. The way that Voss is using him, uses him as subs him off, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's sort of in my eyes, should have taken over the mantle from Matt Kennedy, and I thought that was part of the reason why they were so willing to get rid of Matt Kennedy to allow Cooper Lord to come through, having provided him with the I guess the right opportunity and game time and everything else. But yeah, it's been a massive fail across the board. I think in terms of everyone speaks about the top end looks so good, but it falls away very very quickly. There's a couple of guys that look good, but small forwards, Motlop's not up to it. Get rid of him. Don't like the talk about resigning him. Only a couple of months ago in the media was hilarious. I'm like, have they watched Carlton games? Because his
yeah,
development again probably shot due to the fact that he's just given games when he doesn't deserve it. Like I'm all about guys getting developed, but if they don't quite perform at senior level, give them some time in the VFL. If they look as though they're gathering some form and everything else and taking the game to another level, then give
mm,
them a crack back. But it's just we've faulted a lot of the development of players and these young guys coming in and yeah, if they don't have commitment, like if he knows he's being gifted games week after week, that bit of play that we saw tonight where he wasn't chasing his opponent and was pointing out. I don't know if you saw that, but I can't recall who the Carlton teammate was that he was pointing to cover his man, who sprinted off Motlop, got the ball. I was like, mate, just drop yourself, honestly. Like, just
yeah,
putrid play.
yeah. Like I just think all of it comes down to coaching. Every little bit of it comes down to coaching. Like let's be, I think Motlop is the worst coach player in the league because
Yeah.
he plays in the midfield. That's not his position at all. Why are you playing him in the midfield?
Yep.
And if you're playing in a position where you're not used to it, like you've never played that all your life, and if you do like pretty poor in it week after week, then that's when your confidence is going to fall. And then once you go back to your proper position, then that's when everything starts getting into your head and everything like that. So I can't really fault him for that. That's why I blame Voss. But at the
Yeah.
same time, when he's like taking players on, like going for, like trying to use his strengths, like to get out of tackles. Like that's what kind of frustrates me a little bit.
Mm.
And yeah, I just feel like we don't use our players well. Like they're our coach, like Ollie on halfback. I never agree with the like play him on the wing,
Yep.
and even Doc was on the wing as well when he had patches today. But yeah, I just think everything comes down to coaching, but some of it's down to players as well because they don't. There's no accountability with them. Like Wiedering, he didn't even look fit today. I don't know why he played. Like, what would have been the worst case scenario if he didn't play and you played O'Farrell? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Or even Young.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think we're in for a whirlwind of pain for the next 9 weeks. So
Yeah. I just wish there was about a month to go to make it end quicker and bring about change. But do you think, last question I might just throw you away, do you think Voss survives until the end of the season? Or do you reckon he's gone after, this weekend? Or do you reckon, he's going to go at some stage, maybe after Collingwood's thrashing of us next week?
um, I personally don't feel like they'll get rid of him now, unless it
Mm,
gets really, really bad. Like unless we get pumped by Collingwood, pumped by Brisbane, we lose to Melbourne. Like if we lose every game from the end of the season, I can't see him surviving.
mm,
But like with the players like saying, "Oh, we back Voss," like Crip said it again before. Like he said, "Oh, I love Vossi, like I back him in, like this and that." But if he's not good for a job, then you can't keep him on. Like we're not a boys' club, like
yeah,
we're a football
good club.
organization.
Mm,
But yeah, I do feel like regardless what happens this season, even if we magically make finals, which we won't, I feel like they'll let him go, because if you remember, Graham Wright, who was doing the coaching panel for Collingwood, Voss was, I think, fifth choice. And Graham Wright, funny enough, interviewed Voss, and that's when he basically said, "Nah, you're no good." And then that's when he got McRae. So yeah, that's a bit funny at itself. So yeah, I just think either way, Voss doesn't survive, but I think he will play. I think he will play out this season and then go on his own terms.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if they make any changes, but I think with Cook still at the Brian Cook at the helm as CEO, I think he will be, as I was mentioning earlier, he was open about the fact that he doesn't really like to make much change, and I think he will stick around. But it gets to a point where things become awfully hard. Like I was working at the Carlton Footy Club in the media department back in 2018, and I remember one of my last games, I was traveling with the team, and it was a match against Gold Coast, and we were up. It was at that stage where like the pressure was mounting right by, I think it was a couple of goals with about 2 minutes remaining, and they came back and ended up winning. And I remember after that, and it was just like the height of pressure, and like there was just a tenseness within the club. And it makes it so hard for everyone's jobs within the footy club, not just the media department, not just the crew that do the almost the PR side of things, but there's a sense of dread across the board, and there needs to be that pressure valve that is released. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it does happen, or if they stick fat with that messaging of we're going to stick by Voss until the end of the season. But it's almost to the detriment, unless the players turn things around and put in honest performances. It's still, I think, if we see another performance like we did tonight against Collingwood, I think that's that. And I think like coming up against a rival and the shit that Collingwood would, like, supporters would hang upon us as a club, I reckon that's enough to be like, nah, we've got to pull the cord there.
Yeah, I agree. And do you feel like bad for Voss? Because I was looking at him today and he looked like lost for words, and like I kind of felt bad for him to a point, because he seems like a really good person, but as a coach, like not really. So yeah, I do feel bad for him to a point. But I was gonna mention something else. Far out, I think I forgot. Fuck. Far out. What was I gonna say? Yeah, nah. That.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for him as a human being, because you've always got to think of yourself in, like, if you were in their shoes, like the amount of pressure, how hard it would be, like, to face the media and stuff. But on the other side of the coin, it's like they're well equipped in knowing, like, it comes with the nature of being a senior coach, the pressure that comes. He's faced it before when he was coaching Brisbane, and he's seen both sides, obviously being given the flick as well. So I think he's psychologically probably well set for it, but at the end of the day, he is a human, and yeah, you do feel sorry for him to an extent. But if it all becomes too much, also has the option of falling on his sword and saying, you know what, I'll part ways with the footy club respectfully, all that sort of stuff. Like, he doesn't have to wait until the club gives him the tap on the shoulder as well. So there's the option there as well for him if he wants to do that. But I think he's that much of a proud type, like, human. Not just a player, as when he was on field as the captain of Brisbane back in the day. I think he's too proud to do that. So he'll probably wait until the club gives him a tap on the shoulder.
I agree,
He would know very well that his position is untenable.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say before, I don't think like he'd walk into the club tomorrow and be like, oh yeah, like I'm done and all that. I don't think he'd ever do that. But as I said before with the players, like with Cripps saying, oh, we love Vossi and all that, they played tonight like they just had enough. If they really did love him, then you'd see a more heartfelt performance. You'd see more pride. But that's just life. That's just what happens in sport. People come and go, and yeah, when the time comes for people to go and when change is made, then yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll dissect it and assess it from there. So
yeah,
exactly
right. No worries. Well, thank you for no worries.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping on and having a bit of a yarn. Always enjoy having you on, Aiden. So take care of yourself, mate. And are you going to be there in the game next week? We see how you go.
I don't want to go, but I am going to go anyway. But yeah, I'll go, and if I get, I'll just watch the wood, even if it's a balancing. I'll just sit to it. I'll just be like, I came here for a reason, and I'm just going to sit
Yeah.
through this. So, yeah, sorry for taking a lot of your time, but thanks for having me on.
Oh, not at all, mate. Not at all. No, there's no one in the back end, so always keen to have you on, mate. And I'll very much be the same as well. I'll be there, unfortunately, because I'm an absolute nuffy, and it's to my detriment. But yeah, it's really one of those things where I've never left the game early, but it's really hard. I kind of just disconnect. I don't know about yourself, but I'm just literally on my phone. Even tonight, I was just on my phone, just scrolling Twitter, looking at the meltdowns and everything else. And I just, as a Carlton fan, I think everyone has that ingrained within them enough. It's almost like a bit of a, psychological parachute out of the situation. It's like just disconnect, and you won't feel angry, disappointed, everything else. It's just you come to expect it, I think, to a point. So yeah, we'll see how we go next week. We
Yeah.
just hope for some sort of spirited effort.
Yeah, I agree. Like last year, I was so positive. I was so up and about. Like I was really confident that we could probably win a flag. But after that Richmond loss, like just total disconnect. Like I haven't lost interest, but like I've lost passion. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. There's no point of screaming and yelling if they're not going to do anything. So, yeah. Look. Again, thanks for having me on, and I'm sure I'll talk to you next time.
No worries, Matt. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time. All the
Well,
best.
done. See ya.
Thanks, Matt. Well, there we go. Thank you, Aiden, for jumping on. And a very good point you've made there, Horse. We also got really lucky with Dylan Shield choosing Essendon instead of us. Our idiots even flew to Noosa to try and get him. Yeah, they actually had a private jet with him. They got him on there and were whining and dining him. And a little bit of an insight into things. I was actually working at the club during that period, and I actually, because I'm a videographer by trade, I'm a video editor. I actually cut together the pitch video that the recruiting team were using to try and get Dylan Shield on board. So hopefully my video was too shit for him to choose Essendon over us. But that was quite comical, and it was virtually like a. I think they do it with a lot of players, not just at Carlton, but other teams do it as well. I didn't do it in my time at Collingwood, but yeah, it's virtually like I was putting together a little bit of a compilation of his highlights alongside like atmos of the fans at the ground. When he kicked a goal, shots of like the cheer squad, everything else, and it just gave him a little bit of, I think, watching that would have given him an insight into what it would be like playing in front of a Carlton fan base at the MCG. So obviously coming from GWS, where they play with a non-existent crowd. But yeah, that was a bullet dodged 100% Horse. That could have been another failed recruitment, but hey, it would have been someone that wasn't a halfback flanker. Now let's go through, shall we, the stats for tonight's game, as shit as it was. And we might round things out because I might jump across to, I assume Terry's still doing his fan cams, and I might jump on for a little bit of a yarn if he has any openings. So we might jump across there, and because I think he is still going, and I'm always keen to jump on. And I was watching some of his stuff, but I thought, you know what, might as well jump on and do my review whilst it's still fresh, as shit as it was, because I don't want to rehash and have a look over, highlights, or in our case, lowlights, to then, do a review in a couple of days' time. So let's have a look at the stats, shall we? How shit it was. So it was Port Adelaide 16-14, 110 to Carlton 8-12, 60. So it was 30 scoring shots to 20, which in itself speaks a fair bit. So the deficit was 50 points. And disposal-wise, and I've spoken about during the night as well on the broadcast, the amount of footy that Port Adelaide had compared to us, like we hardly touched it in the first half, let alone the first quarter. It was just absolutely putrid. Moving down inside 50s, to our credit, like even though we had less than our season average of 55.3, we had 43 inside 50s, and we had 20 of those as scoring shots. So that's almost 50%, which is probably better conversion inside 50 than what we normally have. But look at that, 55 to 43. That is a big, big difference there. Disposal efficiency, no surprise, 70%, which is probably on par with our average, as you can see there. And Port Adelaide 75.5. Efficiency inside 50, which is always a big, big issue, of course. 58.1, which is better, much, much better. It was actually 13% better than our season average. And meanwhile, Port Adelaide 61.8%, much, much better than their 48.2% for the season. Stoppages, as you can see here, hit outs, and we spoke about this earlier. Aiden and I were chatting about it with TDK and his lack of influence in the ruck. He's not someone that deserves, 1.5 million a year, whatever the ridiculous amount is St Kilda are offering him. But let alone that, he's not worth the money that we're offering him, which would make him the highest paid player at the club. Like, I know he's really good around the ground. He can play up forward. He can be that enigmatic type, aerobic ruckman, the new age ruckman. But, I mean, you stack up against Pitnet, and Pitnet actually did okay last week against the bigger bodied Cherry. And TDK seems to struggle against the bigger bodied opponents. Jordan Sweetie struggled tonight. Vicentini probably would have, when he chopped out in the ruck, held his own. But when he comes up against those bigger bodied ruckmen, Nankervis, talking about Briggs, he just struggles. And his bread and butter and his strength to his game, as I mentioned, is playing as an extra midfielder almost at stoppages. When he doesn't win the hit outs, he's work at ground level, he's tackling pressure and providing quick hands to his teammates, Cripps, Walshy, anyone else, Chera. That's where he does very, very well. But in the ruck, no, he's virtually like a tall midfielder in my eyes. So I think if he leaves, it's going to be only to our benefit. We'll just need to get someone in to replace him. Hopefully, it is of the caliber of a Darcy Cameron. Clearance-wise, now, believe it or not, we actually won the clearances 35-30. I thought we were getting absolutely smashed, and didn't quite come to pass there. But to our credit, we got smashed in the hit-outs, won the clearances. Whereas previously, the past couple of weeks, we got smashed in the hit-outs. Sorry, smashed in the clearances in North Melbourne's game and West Coast. And possession-wise, so we actually won the contested part of the game. So, Voss, you could probably say, mate, the contested footy, the contested part of our game, that worked. Yay! But we lost the game by 50 points. Pull your head in. Uncontested possessions. Now, that was a big part of the game and just speaks to the lack of pressure that we were applying, allowing Port to get... Now, I think we'll come up to marks in a moment, but surely we got absolutely smashed. And yeah, we did. I just had a bit of a sneak peek. Uncontested possessions there just speaks, again, lack of pressure and just allowing them to run into open space. And if we are playing a setup type of our game where they're trying to plug holes and guard space, well, gee whiz, we did an absolutely shit part of that, didn't we? So, Voss, what are you doing again? Turnovers, no surprise, 58-50. To our credit, though, less than our season average of 64.1. That's a win. Marks, 104-59. So almost, gee whiz, almost double. Just piss poor. Look at that. Our season average of 93.9. We had 59 for the match. Shithouse. Marks inside 50. I'm surprised we had any, really. That would have been in the last quarter, especially, maybe the third quarter. First half was shithouse. But still got smashed 16-11 marks inside 50. Contested marks 5-10. And as we know, 16 goals 14 to 8 goals 12. And of course, we're going to kick more behinds than goals because that's what we do. Tackles, this is a win, 58-42. But we didn't have the ball really in our hands for 90% of the match. So good to see they're at least tackling. And tackles inside 50, 13-7. So that was just around about on par for us. And 1%ers, even 43 apiece. But really, it was just a shit game. It really was. The stats don't tell the tale, and it was an ordinary game to watch. There's no two ways about it. It really was. I don't know what else to say. Let me see if Willow Ratings has updated their breakdown of the match as yet. I don't think they have. No, they will probably do that tomorrow. But can't go into the ins and outs in terms of the intrinsic stats, the ones beneath the surface. But it wasn't good at all. Was not good. Let me go through whilst I'm here. A couple more of my tweets across the journey, just harping back to snippets of those moments where I'd realised that Voss, he was not a good coach at all. It really is. It really is beyond help. There's issues. It's like tactically, the way we've been played, set up, even like looking at this, like playing guys that didn't deserve games. Fantasia last year, Motlop this year. Why? 2023, again, to Carlton fans who think Voss and assistants aren't the issue. A reminder, we virtually have the same list as 2022. We're at full strength, but Zach Williams, we're dropped into the abyss. Game plan is shit and confidence is shot. Voss has lost the players. Time to go. And what I will say is I actually put out a tweet. Was it on my personal one? It may have been. Here it was in Bluebaggers Edge. Check this out. So this is the side that faced the Lions in the 2023 prelim. And we have, sorry, I made a mistake there. We have 7 players different versus tonight. And Sauce, obviously a definite upgrade on Marchbank. Walsh and Newman injured. Again, you don't lose talent within the space of 2 seasons, and it reeks of not being able to best utilise personnel. So difference here, Marchbank obviously not with the team anymore. Newman injured. Cottrell not playing. Martin out of the team. Pitnet not playing. Sammy Walsh is injured. And H also injured. So 7 players there. But look at that across the board. We've got Wiedering, Sard, Boyd, McGovern, Akers, Cripps, Ollie Hollins, Doc, Fog Dog, Charlie Curnow, Georgie Boy Hewitt, and on the bench, Motlop, Cherard, DeConning, and Chincona. And yet that's the performance that we dished up tonight. I think that speaks volumes, really. And speaks to my contention that the main issue, yes, some of the players are an issue, but the main issue, the crux of the issue is the coaching across the board. Voss, Jordan Russell, Ash Hansen, that crew, that entire crew. Maybe you can give Aaron Hamill a little bit of a pass, a leave pass, because the defense has been okay. But gee whiz, that just speaks volumes. So if anyone says that no, it's not the coaches and it's only the players, look at that. Because it's not just the players, it is the coaches as well. And, by and large, should be extracting more from this team than what we are currently. As I mentioned, an All-Australian fullback, we have Sauce at centre half back, finally filling a hole that has been vacant for a fair while, having to play Marchbank there, which again speaks to the issues that we had. Cripps, Walsh through the middle, TDK being spoken about as potentially the highest paid player in the game if he goes to St Kilda. Charlie, Harry, both of which have won Coleman medals. Cripps won a Brownlow. And it's like, we could virtually have anyone stand in as a coach and we would get a different result, I think. We just need a fresh set of eyes, fresh perspective, and go from there. Let's continue on. Let's have a look. Spoke about there. That was in 2023 as well. Again, this was 2023, August 19. Yeah, this is a hit issue game, but this is putrid. That was actually the game, I think, where we turned things around. Pull some strings, Voss. Absolutely vanilla. And thankfully, strings were pulled and we adopted a game plan that worked. We only ran with it for the final series and then went back to that shit game style in 2024 onwards. And look at this, July 2, 2023. Incredible that Voss and Co. have finally got the memo to bin the slow tempo play and largely the forward defensive press that killed us all year. Fast running waves, attack the middle. Incredible how quick stubbornness is shed once a job is on the line. It's unfortunate that this hasn't happened again. But have a look at that. That forward defensive press we've gone back to with. And that defensive forward press, alternatively, on both ends of the ground, we've gone back to. And it doesn't work. What the fuck's he thinking? And look at this. August 6, 2023. So I guess we now know Voss and Co.'s plan B, reverting to the shitty game plan, slow movement, hugging wings, avoiding corridor, no leading patterns, kicking inside 50 to pockets, bombing it in that we have had during our poor run of form early in the season, putrid. The same thing, 2024. The same thing, 2025. And just so many there about structure, ball movement, setup. Yeah, honestly. Jeff, defense can't transition the ball at the moment, then repeat injuries catch us out of position. And I mean, that is partly due to the fact that we just can't use the ball to great effect and low on confidence. But the big issue I found as well in defense, when the opposition put a press on to our defense, we just don't have a setup. We don't have a spread where we can kick to, free teammates. They're virtually stagnant, and a lot of the time it's just hack kicks high out of defensive 50 that are marked by the opposition. Weeders does it all the time. He's the prime culprit. There's other players as well that do it, like midfielders and stuff as well, that just panic. But just shit house. But yeah, that's an issue in a defense. Like, defense is not Teflon. They're not free of any criticism because they need to improve as well, 100%. But speaking to in terms of defensively, restricting score, they've been okay in games, but other games have just been found out. Horsehead in the bed, Carlton between June 18, 2023 and June 30, 2024. 22 wins and 6 losses. And since July 6, 2024, Carlton 6 wins and 16 losses. It sure feels like it, that's for sure. Absolutely. Well, ladies and gents, we might end things there if no one else is keen to jump on for a bit of a chat. I might head across to see what else is going on. If Terry's still doing his fan cams, I might jump on there, have a little bit of a yarn with him. Good lad he is. Otherwise, that's it, ladies and gents. Thank you as always for jumping on. Really do appreciate all of your company, and jumping on in the chat as well as for those that jumped on the live stream. Aiden, always good to hear you and your perspectives, mate, as a fellow bagger. And if you have watched until now, feel free to give us a like, give us a subscribe as well, because it just helps us with the algorithm, and it helps build the channel so it's exposed to other Bluebaggers out there to jump on and grow the channel and have a yarn with all of us, which is always a good thing. But that's it, ladies and gents. Thanks as always. Thank you, Horsehead in the bed. Now, is this you, Jonas Goat? Have you changed your name again? If not, I apologise. If you're someone else. Oh, there you are. It says right there. I didn't read. Look at this. I cannot read. I'll blame Carlton. Cheers, Damo. Regards, Jonas. Thank you, mate. I don't know what you're doing with your names, but you're trying to throw me, but I know it's you, based upon the fact you're a fellow bagger and the way that you write. You can't trick me, mate. You cannot trick me. But thank you, Jonas. Thank you, everyone else jumping on. Jeff, just scrolling back through the chat here. Josh, Aiden, of course, Logan, and anyone else that I may have missed. Quinton, who had to jump off earlier. Aiden, Albert, Logan, Jay, MZ, all of you. Thank you so much. So we will catch you in the next one. We will be back, of course, to preview that shitful game coming up against Collingwood. Hopefully with a new coach. We'll wait and see. But hopefully with some changes of, that are going to be reasonable. Well, that's it. Thank you again. And we will catch you in the next one. Cheers. And go Baggers, of course.
Have you ever heard